In the airline industry, comeback stories are usually just about surviving. But this is about something else entirely. It's about completely rewriting the history books. I mean, just a few years back, Norwegian Air was basically on life support, about to go under. And now, they're not just back, they're posting profits that are literally off the charts. So, how does an airline do that? How do you pull a company back from the absolute brink of disaster and turn it into, well, something truly unprecedented? For Norwegian, it all started with one quarter. One absolutely mind-blowing quarter. And I mean, you got to get ready for this because the numbers here are just wild. In the third quarter of 2025, Norwegian didn't just squeak by with a profit. No, they delivered an operating profit of 3.071 billion Norwegian kroner. Let that sink in. To put that into perspective for you, that's over 300 million US dollars in a single quarter. This wasn't just beating expectations, they absolutely blew them out of the water. This was a clear signal that something fundamental had changed inside that company. And look, we have to be super clear here. This wasn't just a good quarter. It was the single best financial quarter in the company's entire history. So, the big question is, how in the world did they pull this off? Okay, to really get this, we've got to go back a bit, because this didn't just happen by accident. This wasn't some lucky break. It was the end result of a really deliberate, probably painful, but in the end, absolutely brilliant strategic reinvention. Just think about this for a second. In 2021, the company was in financial restructuring. I mean, they were selling off planes, letting people go, just trying to keep the lights on. And then, bam, just a few years later, they're making more money than they've ever seen. The secret to this incredible pivot? It really came down to one huge, fundamental decision. And this really explains everything. The old Norwegian, they were all over the place, chasing this dream of aggressive global expansion no matter the cost. The new Norwegian? Totally different. They've got a laser focus on one thing, what actually makes money. And for them, that means profitable regional routes right there in the Nordics. They basically traded chaotic ambition for disciplined profit. And wow, did it pay off? So let's dig into this new playbook a little more. How did they actually do it? How did that shift in thinking turn into record-breaking cash? Well, it really comes down to a few key things they executed perfectly. If you want to see how efficient they got, you just have to look at one number. The operating margin. It's basically how much profit they make on every dollar they bring in. And get this, it jumped from a pretty good 18.4% to an amazing 25.1% in just a single year. That means the whole business, top to bottom, just got way, way more profitable. And a big part of that was this internal thing they called Program X. Now, this wasn't just about cutting a few costs here and there. This was about completely rethinking how they operate to maximize profit. We're talking everything from flight schedules to how they sell tickets, all with the goal of adding over 1 billion kroner to the bottom line every single year. But it's not just about being more efficient with what they already have. The way they think about growth is also completely different now. It's super smart. They're not just throwing darts at a map anymore. They're waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And there's no better example of this than what they just did in Denmark. This was just a genius move. It was like a chess grandmaster setting up the perfect checkmate. See, instead of getting into a big, expensive fight with another airline, Norwegian just waited. They saw a major competitor, Ryanair, was closing its base at Billund Airport, and the second that happened, the second there was a vacuum, Norwegian pounced. And they didn't just dip their toes in the water, they went all in. They immediately reopened a base, launched 10 new international routes, and just like that, they became the biggest airline at that airport. It was the perfect example of their new strategy. Calculated, low risk, and with a huge potential reward. So what do you do when all of a sudden you've got a ton of cash and all this momentum? Well, you don't just sit on it. You invest. You start building for the future and making sure the success is going to last. Right now, Norwegian is running a pretty lean operation with about 95 planes. But what they're doing next? Well, it's a huge statement about where they see themselves going. Check this out. They already had an order for 50 brand new Boeing 737 MAX 8s. Then they decided to exercise an option to add 30 more. So that's a firm order for 80 new, super fuel-efficient planes. And this isn't just about getting bigger for the sake of it. This is them locking in their growth plans for pretty much the next decade. And their CEO, Geir Karlsen, basically said this move kills two birds with one stone.
First, they got a really good deal on the planes, which is great for the bottom line. And second, these new jets are way more fuel efficient, which is a huge deal for their sustainability goals. And speaking of sustainability, it's not just marketing talk for them. They actually just won a contract in Denmark to fly the country's first ever green domestic route. That means those flights will use a big chunk of sustainable aviation fuel. It's just another sign that for the new Norwegian, making money and being environmentally responsible are not mutually exclusive.
So you've got the huge profits, the smart, tactical growth, the massive order for new planes. It's all building to one final thing, the ultimate proof, the final signal to the world that this turnaround isn't a fluke, it's real, and it's here to stay. And what is that proof? Well, it's not just another line item in a financial report. It's about giving back to the people who believed in them, even when things looked really bleak. We're talking about their shareholders. In August of 2025, Norwegian did something huge. They paid a cash dividend. For the first time in a very, very long time, actual cash profit went straight back to the investors. But it's the history here that makes this so incredible. This was the very first dividend the company had paid out in 23 years, in its entire history. I mean, think about that. After all the ups and downs, the crazy growth, the near-death experience, this was the moment they could finally stand up and say, we did it. We're stable, we're profitable, and we are back for good. So, what's the big lesson here? What's the takeaway from this amazing story? For me, it's a masterclass in strategy, discipline, and having the guts to admit your old way of doing things is broken and you need to start over. And all of this leaves us with one really fascinating question to think about. In an industry that is just famously brutal, with razor-thin margins, has Norwegian just created a whole new playbook for how to win? Is this focus on disciplined, regional profitability the new gold standard for European airlines? You can bet the entire industry will be watching to find out.